I want to say that the Agent Zero character could have actually been at least fun to look at, to watch him shoot bad guys, use his amazing sharpshooting ability. I would have almost liked to have seen more of this. It would have gotten repetitive eventually. But when you think about it, the only times we get to see him do his mutant power in this movie is the scene in Nigeria and then when he shoots the old couple. So we get maybe 25 to 30 seconds of him using his power, which is at least fun to look at. So really this character ends up really not doing much. I was kind of disappointed. There were some cool mutants in this movie, and I felt like a lot of them were not shown nearly enough, which I'll get to more shortly. Wolverine then goes to Las Vegas to meet former associates John Wraith, the teleporter, and Fred Dukes, the super strong, invulnerable guy. Now, Wraith is currently, I guess, running a boxing ring. That's the impression I got here. And Fred Dukes is a boxer. Here's the thing, and this really set me off. Fred Dukes now weighs approximately 700 to 800 pounds. He's morbidly obese. Apparently, he has a guilt-driven eating disorder from the things they did while in Team X. I guess I'm not entirely sure what they were trying to do here. I'm thinking maybe they were trying to show that the mutants had human emotions and human reactions to things, but they were also trying to be funny with this scene, and it just doesn't work. It feels very disrespectful, feels like something you might see in a parody, but it's not supposed to be in the actual movie, and I somewhat had a problem with it. Anyway, Wolverine ends up boxing with Dukes, and ends up winning thanks to the fact that his skull is made out of adamantium, and even though Dukes is invulnerable, Wolverine can still at least knock him down. I suppose the fight was some sort of initiation ritual that allowed Wolverine to deserve to hear what Dukes had to say. Dukes divulges the information about Stryker. We learn that Victor, Sabretooth, is now working for Stryker, and actually always was, meaning that the death of his girlfriend was all plot by Stryker to get him to agree to the adamantium procedure. We also learned that Stryker has a hidden laboratory where he is experimenting on mutants, supposedly trying to combine all their powers into one super mutant. But Dukes does not know the location of this laboratory. He only knows someone who will know. This is Remy LeBeau, also known as Gambit, the only man who ever escaped this prison, which is called the Island. And he's in New Orleans, so that's where Wolverine goes next. It's all through these scenes that we see Wolverine basically going from point A to point B to point C. We never stay in any location for more than 5 to 10 minutes, and it's all kind of annoying because it just feels like you're playing a video game where you have to complete objectives to get to a final point, and it's really not that fun. That's another complaint I have in this movie. Things move really fast. It's not that long a movie, even though it ends up that a lot of stuff happens in it. But they try and cram it all into 107 minutes, which I feel doesn't really work. Anyway, Wolverine leaves with John Wraith to track down Gambit, and they find him playing cards, cheating at cards it would seem, in a New Orleans casino, I suppose. Meanwhile, we see Victor kidnap a teenage Scott Summers Cyclops for Stryker. This becomes relevant in a moment, but this amounts to little more than a cameo to appease some of the fanboys, because Scott Summers doesn't really have anything to do with this movie, but I don't have a problem with it. Wolverine brings up to Gambit the subject of the island, and Gambit is clearly bothered by this and believes that Wolverine was sent to recapture him. So now we are introduced to Gambit's power, which is the ability to charge objects with kinetic energy. He uses his trademark playing cards to throw them at Wolverine and sends him flying through a wall, which is more or less what he would do in the comics, so that's cool, even though the cards don't blow up like I believe they should. Whatever. Anyway, Wolverine is thrown outside. Outside, he sees Victor has killed Wraith. We see a short fight scene where Sabretooth has killed Wraith, taking a sample of his blood. Wolverine and Victor fight, and it appears Wolverine now has the upper hand thanks to his adamantium skeleton, but Gambit interrupts the fight, perhaps interrupting Wolverine's opportunity to kill him, allowing Victor to escape with a sample of blood from Wraith. Now, this scene somewhat bothers me. I don't mind the fight scene between Wolverine and Sabretooth. That was handled perfectly fine. Just two animal-like mutants going at each other. But then you have Gambit introduced here. Now, I understand his power is to charge these cards with kinetic energy and throw them at guys. And he can charge any object with kinetic energy, and that's cool. But throughout this scene, we see him as he's trying to break up the fight between Wolverine and Sabretooth, and then he fights Wolverine. We see him use his cane as a helicopter to jump off a building and land safely. We see him use his cane to climb up a building by repeatedly stabbing the cane into the wall and jumping up it. We see him do a bunch of other related things, and I'm somewhat confused about his power now. I guess you might be able to use your kinetic energy abilities to charge your cane to allow it to spin really fast so you can use it as a helicopter, and you can charge your cane with kinetic energy to give you enough energy to stab through partially a brick wall so you can climb up it, but it ends up looking kind of stupid, and it doesn't really go with his supposed powers. I don't know, I just didn't like the way Gambit was handled. He was heavily hyped up for this movie, I believe, and we really didn't see much of him, and he ended up looking kind of stupid when he was in it. Wolverine manages to effectively beat Gambit, I guess, in a really weird-looking scene where he starts chopping up the ladder that Gambit's trying to climb up, which just ends up looking really awkward, whatever. Anyway, for no particular reason, Victor suddenly decides to agree. Okay, I'll take you to the island where the mutants are being kept. For no reason. He had no particular reason to believe that Wolverine was suddenly different. It took about 3 seconds for Wolverine to just say, I'm gonna go kill everybody in this world that you hate. Are you gonna help me? And Gambit just says, okay, I believe you. So, I don't know, this was handled really poorly, really rushed. Something had to change here. The island is actually 3 Mile Island, which is only pretending to be a nuclear power plant and is actually Stryker's mutant experimentation area. Wolverine gets there, confronts Stryker, and learns that his girlfriend, Kayla, is still alive. And she is actually a mutant as well. I'm not totally sure if Wolverine knew this beforehand. My impression is no, he didn't, but it is possible because some things in this movie are just not well explained. Her death was faked with hydrochloricide. She was keeping track of Wolverine on the instructions of Stryker to free her sister, Emma Frost, who is also in the prison, her mutant power being to turn her skin diamond hard. As for Kayla's special ability, mutant power actually, she can influence the mind of anybody who she touches. We saw a glimpse of this earlier in the movie where she convinces a jackass to move his truck off a bridge so that she and Logan can cross it in their truck. And she was using this power to seduce Wolverine so that she could keep track of him and eventually fake her death, causing him to get angry, which would allow him to agree to the adamantium procedure. So everything was just an act. She clearly feels bad about this. She was only doing it to try and save her sister, but Wolverine is obviously hurt by that. He references the old Greek story that I don't give a crap about, and Wolverine walks off. Sabretooth is all mad that Stryker allowed Wolverine to walk away and demands the adamantium procedure that Wolverine got. Stryker claims that he will not survive the procedure because apparently his mutant healing factor isn't as strong as Wolverine. I wasn't really aware of that, and I saw no indication of it in this movie, but whatever. Anyway, Sabretooth gets mad and tries to kill Silver Fox. Wolverine hears Silver Fox screams and comes back to attack Victor. I don't know why he cares now, because he just gave a short speech about how betrayed he feels by her, so I don't really know where this came from, but I guess I can understand that he still has some feelings for her, so I guess it's okay. Anyway, they come back, they fight, and now Wolverine, because he does have the adamantium in his body, is able to defeat Sabretooth, but ultimately chooses not to kill him and simply knocks him out. Silver Fox, which is Kayla's mutant nickname, makes up with Wolverine. She reasons with him, saying, I was only doing it trying to save my sister. So Wolverine goes to the holding cells where all the mutants are being kept and frees them.